Welcome back to Recruiter Fuel in season number 3, episode number 2. Hey, if you didn't check out episode number 1, make sure you go back and do that, where we had the discussion around recruiting and engaging millennials in the workforce, a topic you don't want to miss. Here in episode number 2, we're going to take a different approach and talk about the candidate experience. And I happen to be outside on a beautiful sunny day. It's a bright day. The question for you is your candidate experience a bright, wonderful reflection of your organization, or are you taking them through a storm? Check this episode out.
I think one mistake that a lot of companies still make that hurts candidate experience is this belief that who wouldn't want to work for your company? Candidates, whether they're active interviewing or passively interviewing, they have a choice. You know, even if you're the only company they're interviewing with, they still have a choice, and that choice could be to not come work for you.
I think that the top killer is just when a company doesn't really know what they really want as far as the role goes. So you have someone come in and interview and they find out that it's not a good fit.
So you have to highlight, when you're talking to someone, you have to highlight the benefits and the opportunities within the company. And if you don't do that, then the candidate leaves that interview not really feeling comfortable about, you know, the organization itself or what's next for me in the company. Where can I ascend to? Where can I go to? What other opportunities are there?
When I'm talking to candidates, I always put myself in their shoes. You know, if someone called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, Marion, I got this great job for you. How about talking to me?" I would immediately hang up.
So really what you're doing is you're wasting the client's time, you're wasting the candidate's time, because that's not a good fit. So I think when a client has a good idea of what they're looking for in the role, not just skills and all that, but really culturally what is a good fit for them, it really helps with the candidate experience.
The old habit of sticking to a script of interview questions and just reading those, and then when they're done, okay, do you have any questions for me? Okay, no, great, we'll call you. It just creates a really poor experience for any candidate, regardless of their status in terms of active or passive, and prevents people from oftentimes accepting a follow-up interview or even accepting a job.
I wouldn't want to just kind of make it sound too salesy. You know, we got this great job for you, paying this amount of money, and here it is. So just by putting myself in that person's shoes kind of makes it more of a positive conversation versus a negative conversation.
A mistake that I think a lot of hiring managers make, especially if they like the candidate, they're trying too hard to build a relationship, and that's usually when they could stick their foot in their mouth.
So for what I do, I meet everybody I work with. So I sit down and I go over all your different backgrounds, what you've done, what you haven't done, and I also go on site to meet with the client and figure out what their environment looks like, what they're looking for in these roles. So when I meet somebody, I not only talk to them about their skills, their background, but what they want to do, and would their personality fit with the client. Yeah,
I think with optimizing a better experience for candidates, it goes back a little bit to what I said before about not being a Me Too company in terms of how you interview. Whether I was in a corporate recruiter role where I was really the first point and primary point of contact for candidates, or in our current organization where we oftentimes are supporting our clients, I take the responsibility of, it's my job to make sure that they're knowledgeable going into their interview, they're comfortable going into their interview, what questions do they have, talking through some of that with them, prepping them for their interview, so that way when they get in there, it's not just they answer 10 questions and then they don't have anything to ask. I don't give them questions oftentimes to ask, but based on my conversations with candidates, understanding what is most important to them in a new role, making sure that they have questions prepared around those things if they're not covered during the course of the conversation.
By putting myself in that other person's shoes, I feel as though that I would kind of get more of a better understanding on why this person should talk to me. I want them to engage in a conversation about why this role would be a great fit as far as their next step in their career.
We have a current client that got recognized by a candidate for how well the interview experience was. The candidate was flying in from out of state. The recruiter that was attached to the project was tracking his flight on a Sunday night coming in, and as soon as the flight landed, she texted him and said, "Hey, glad to see you made it in okay. Again, here's the confirmation information for your hotel in case you don't have it readily available. Here's the information for the car that you're picking up, and here's my cell phone if you have any questions." And the fact that that was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, he was really impressed that she had taken the time and paid attention to that.
And again, this is still the same premise that I had mentioned before, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. First of all, you're calling someone out of the clear blue. They already have a job. Why do you want to talk to me? Who are you? What company are you calling from? How did you get my phone number? Why are you calling me? I already have a job. So you establish kind of more of a relationship quickly over the phone. Listen, I know that you already have a job. My name is Mary Ann Lee. I'm a recruiter. Saw some information on the internet about your background. Just wanted to take a chance to see if you're open to other opportunities. Know that you're working for a very well-established company. Not wanting you to jump ship, but just have a brief conversation with me. That's it. And you kind of take the walls down.
So sometimes I sit in the interview, it depends on the client. If I'm there, I'm usually just there to take notes because again, I want to know what the certain managers ask, what style, because sometimes I'll talk to a candidate and say, okay, this manager, he is very laid back, very conversational. He'll just ask you some questions, but it's just going to be more like you're talking to a buddy. But other managers are very direct. You need to answer this, you need to answer that. You might have to get examples, elaborate, you have to know your stuff.
Oftentimes the interviewer is the hiring manager, so you do want to start establishing relationships in the interview with the candidate because this could be your prospective employee.
If they're a good fit for the role, if they're interested in the role, then I'll meet them and just kind of go over in more depth their background, what they're looking for, so that way they get to meet me as well, so not just somebody on the phone, but someone they actually know. Those relationships, I've worked with people that 3 years later, I find them a position because I've already met them, I know what they're looking for, and I just keep an eye out.
Another successful story, I always talk about this story, a young lady who we had called her job, and on her voicemail, speaking of pregnant, on her voicemail it said that she was on maternity leave. And I said, I've got to talk to her, because this is a prime time to talk to her. She's not doing anything, she's at home. So we connected with her via LinkedIn. She connected back, and we talked. The client ended up interviewing her while she was on maternity leave, waited for her to get off of maternity leave, and they hired her when she got off of maternity leave. So that's a success story.
So finding commonality, common ground and building rapport is important, but you also have to be careful not to take it too far. As an example, earlier in my career, I had a incident where a hiring manager asked a female candidate when her baby was due and she wasn't pregnant. So there's a perfect case there of I'm just trying to show that I'm paying attention to this person and building some rapport, and you can imagine how poorly that was received and how much that blew up in his face.